Wow, we're live. Oh my goodness. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Um,
We
and
have,
I'm going to give this over to Cara. And everybody, thank you for being here.
well, we have several things that we're excited for tonight. And the theme of our tonight show has to deal with a theme from, drum roll please, the new book that was just completed by Debbie and I. And it is in editing, so it should be out pretty soon. And it's The Past Lives of Deborah O'Hara Mysteries at the Columbian Exposition. And it takes place in Chicago. And we are following another serial killer from history who claimed that the devil was in him, and that was H.H. Holmes. So it kind of fits with our theme tonight. But there's also, I want to take a moment to say that we finished this book right at the past midnight on Debbie's birthday. We want to wish Debbie a happy, happy birthday. We are so happy that she had a good day and that this was the perfect present for her.
It was. Thank
Yes,
you.
and my present to you is I'm halfway through editing already, so
All right. I take
I'm on a roll
that.
for you.
Brandi, you're so appreciated. We love you and you help us so much. And we're blessed. We're really blessed.
Yes, we are so excited. Now, we are going to start with our fact or fiction, and our storyteller for that tonight is our Sandra D. And she's going to take it away and she's going to tell us maybe a true story, maybe an outright lie. But let's hear what she has to say.
Right? Happiest of birthdays, Debbie. That's so awesome.
Oh, thank you.
I sing before the show's over. Today we're going to travel all the way back to just outside of Chicago, Illinois. So we've got a lot going on back towards Chicago tonight. In a small town just outside of Chicago called Oak Park, Illinois. There's a lot of really big, beautiful old homes, but there's one home in Oak Park that people swear to this day is haunted, and they believe it's haunted by the serial killer who lived in the basement. His mom lived upstairs, and he lived in the basement in Oak Park. Cara, being from that area, help me to describe these houses that come from Oak Park. They're huge.
They are massive. They are a combination. There are Georgian, four squares, which is what my son has, old Victorians, and there's even some Edwardian ones.
Right.
And the square footage, it's insane. And thousands of square feet in these homes.
Right.
And picket fences, wrought iron fences, everything that you would imagine from a stately home, you're going to find there.
Creepy story.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oak Park has houses that Hollywood would come to town and rent to do their commercials or to make scary movies. And there's one particular house that ever since the man who they believed was a serial killer, his name was Alec Sebastian Jovanovich. Alex Sebastian Jovanovich. Oh, here's hoping I didn't massacre that too bad. Serial killers always have a middle name. That's another thing when I put it. His mother lived upstairs. She was a Russian immigrant, and her husband never made it over. She came over alone, and she was pregnant when she got here. So her son was born here. And when he was born, he had a deformity on his face. He had a cleft palate, but he also had some kind of growth. So he wound up not being involved. He wasn't dating. He wasn't involved with people. He had it was very unappealing. And even his own mom, used to like, he had mom issues, probably because she never got that fixed. She never took care of him. She just kind of shut him away and kept him away. So as he moved on in his life, he went to work for, of all places, the Chicago Tribune. And as he was working at the Chicago Tribune, he was working in the evening hours, janitorial work. He met some of the secretaries that would work there. And over the years, he was with the Tribune for about, they said, about 12 years. And over the years, girls kept disappearing. And in that area, not just people who worked in the Tribune building, but prostitutes from that area. And eventually one day, his mother had died, and he never took over the upstairs of the home. He continued to live in the basement. And one day, when new neighbors are coming in next door, somebody mentioned something about what they saw in the back area, and he was found out. The police, let me back up a little bit. One of the neighbors saw him the night before digging in his backyard, and they called the police. So the next day, the police come out and they say, well, someone saw you digging. What were you digging for? And he already had a reputation because he stated, he was unpleasant to look at. And he wasn't well known. His mom kept him hidden away, so he stayed in this house. That weekend, they dug up the backyard, the fresh areas, and they found 17 bodies in the back part of this Oak Park home. Yeah, right. Okay, so now here's the twist on the story. So the policeman who did the interview for all of the bodies that they found back here, he was interviewing Jovanovic, and the man says to him, slip sliding again, and the police officer took note. The man kept telling him song lyrics. Instead of admitting, he thought he was getting a confession, and the man was actually telling him song lyrics from the Paul Simon song, Slip Sliding Again. Da, 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 that. So as he thought the man was methodically answering the questions, he was literally giving him song lyrics. Turned out that, somebody at the Tribune apparently saw him one night with one of the people that they found in the backyard. He was guilty. He admitted his guilt eventually. I believe he died in the insane asylum somewhere in downstate Joliet, Illinois, somewhere near there. But to this day, that house won't sell. That house still sits there. People are creeped out. And some people say that you can hear that song when you're walking around the house or walking near the house. So I thought that was interesting. It was a time in music. Creepy serial killers. I wish I had a picture of the house. The house still stands vacant and empty. One of the only 4 houses in Oak Park that happens with. All the rest of them are occupied. So there's 4 houses with creepy stories. So anyway, you guys, am I telling you the truth or is it fiction? What do you think?
Well, we're going to find out at the end of the show, but that is, man, if that is true, it is awfully creepy.
Oh.
No.
It just,
that would be very disturbing. Especially with how beautiful those homes are. I couldn't imagine,
It reminded me of the Ed Gein story in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, like your really upper class area where everybody's normal, but then you got the one guy that is killing everybody and making lampshades out of them. After.
Bringing in Ed Gein, I got to tell you, my mom's aunt, it was my great aunt, her and her husband were his neighbors. They raised these purebred dogs. I can't remember the name of them. I don't know if they were Whippets or what they were, or Great Danes. I can't remember. But they never were able to have children. She miscarried twins, and Her husband was so sick, he actually put them in her house in a jar in the kitchen. Yeah. But they used to invite him over all the time for dinner. He spent Sunday dinners at their house all the time. Maybe he was fascinated with the babies hanging in there.
Right? Can you
But,
imagine?
oh, and and sadly, my beautiful aunt was her whole world revolved around her husband, and he was a pharmacist, and I think he kept her drugged up, but he died one day,
He
and
wasn't he,
no. But I mean, it's just so weird that how twisted their story was intertwined with Ed Gein. They, uh, the neighbors finally said, there's newspapers piling up, no mail's being collected. They had the police go in, and they found her in the bedroom trying to feed her husband's dead corpse
Oh my.
that she had been feeding him for weeks, and he was just bloated and black and decomposing, and she was feeding him.
Oh.
And she ended up, sadly, my aunt ended up in a home, a mental institution, the rest of her life. She never really, the only people was, my family, they'd send her makeup and stuff like that, and lipstick. Her favorite thing was lipstick. But, we think she had a psychotic break after she lost the babies, and he stuck them in the kitchen on the thing. But they were friends with Ed Gein and his mother before his mom died.
Oh wow.
Is that, yeah.
Like life slaps it off, and then you find out who your friends are.
Yeah. But
always big houses with the creepiest, weirdest stories are these big, huge old houses.
Oh yeah.
Fascinating.
And well, we're gonna switch to a serial killer that's quite infamous, and is probably one of the biggest ones too, about being possessed or being, in league with the devil, and that's Brandi's story. With
Ooh,
Sam
I'm next.
Yes.
Yay! Alrighty. So, as she said, I'm covering the one that is, he was known as Son of Sam, Sam I Am, or the 44 caliber killer. His name was David Richard Berkowitz. That was not what his name was when he was born, though. He was adopted out. His mother did the unthinkable. She had an affair with a married man, and he said that he would not have anything to do with her if she did not get rid of the child and not give it his name. So, David was, he was born Richard David Falco was his birth name. But when he was adopted by a Jewish couple, they changed his name to David Richard Berkowitz. And he was an only child in this household, so he didn't have a lot of siblings. He was doted on by his adoptive parents. And really, you wouldn't think that he had that traumatizing of a life to turn into the serial killer that he eventually became. The one thing that did start setting off his tendencies, or I guess you could say the starting point for his career in crime, was that his adoptive mother died when he was around 14 years old of breast cancer. And he just did not like his new stepmom. He couldn't meet eye to eye on her or with her, and they just did not get along well. And later on, he would go on to reconnect with his birth mom and learn about his father. And this really brought on a break in his identity because he had such weak father figures in his life that he just couldn't reconciliate who he was personally because of it. So they suspect that's where the break in reality came for him. He went on to shoot several people. He only pled guilty to 8 of them. And his original defense was that the devil made him do it. It was his neighbor's dog that was the devil, and his name was Sam, and he was making him go out and kill people. Now, the weird thing about this story is that he often refers to Sam making him do it, but when he was arrested, he identified himself as Sam. So that's where you get the confusion between it being Son of Sam or Sam I Am Killer, because he contradicts himself in his story. Now, before being caught, he had written a letter to the police, kind of taunting them because they hadn't caught him yet, and he enjoyed the notoriety of his crimes. And he's actually the one that dubbed the name Son of Sam Killer for himself. Originally, they was calling him the 44 caliber killer because that was his weapon of choice and what he had used in all of his attempts. Besides the first one, which he used a knife and didn't succeed at killing anybody with it. Now, one of the quotes out of his letter was, "I am the monster, Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. I love to hunt." So, even in his letter, he was distinguishing that he was possessed or being controlled by a demon. And when they did his psychological profile, one of the things they told the cops to watch out for, that he was neurotic and probably had a paranoid schizophrenia and believed himself to be a victim of demonic possession. So that was in his psychological profile when they was hunting him down. So they already kind of had gathered from just the letters that he was going to claim this defense. He would later on, though, after being convicted, convert to being a evangelical. I can never say that word. Sorry, guys. Yes, Christian. And he claimed that he had once been a member of a violent satanic cult, and that's why he did the murders. Of course, later on, we'd go on to, him saying that he didn't do any of the murders. He was framed, and it was all these other people in the satanic cult that did it and framed him. Now, there was enough speculation to this that the cops actually did reopen up his trial, or the case itself, and look into it. However, since then, it has been closed down and indefinitely closed. The case is done. Although witness reports did report two different looking men at the killer scenes. One was blonde, one was brown haired. A couple of letters was written by different people just by the way they wrote, the handwriting, and also how they spelled words and the sentence structure. One was more highly intelligent and more education based, where the other one was just large block capital letters that didn't even have right spelling in it. So that's interesting. But he claimed that he was possessed, or not necessarily that he was possessed, but his neighbor's dog was possessed by the devil and making him do all the killings. So I've never heard of a dog being possessed by the devil and making you kill things, but he believed it. And if you really want to look into the case, just look up David Richard Berkowitz. Interesting character, guys.
I do have an interesting thing to say about him. After he converted, when he was first going up for one of his parole hearings, he wrote a letter to the governor of New York at the time.
Yes.
Telling him to cancel it, that he had accepted his fate and he was where he was rightfully belonged, and it was his punishment that he served because it was God's will because of the crimes and stuff that he committed. So he has actively been saying he didn't want a parole hearing. He's tried to cancel several of them.
Yes.
His next one is due at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm. And he's actually, for that being said, though, he tried to make a lot of money off of his crimes.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to sell the rights to it, writing books and stuff. He's actually the reason that New York State legislature enacted new statutes, known popularly as the Son of Sam laws. And they're designed to keep criminals from financially profiting from the publicity created by their crimes. So they kind of is like, no, we're not letting you do this. You're not going to gain profit off of the crimes you committed and the people you killed. That's not really punishment for you. You're earning money off of this. So nope, not happening. Cutting that off. Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Definitely. What do you? I know, Sandy. I know you know some about of his crimes with shooting the couples and stuff in the cars. I mean, what do you think about his flip flopping and these different things and his Christianity conversion?
I always
on that one.
don't think something about prison makes everybody work.
They're the jailhouse Christian. As long as they're behind bars, they believe in God. He saved them, blah, blah, blah. You let them loose, and where'd God go now?
And I'm really sorry about what I did. I, that one always blows my mind. Because, well, naturally, when you're faced with life in prison, that and let's hope you find God. But yeah, this guy, the thing about him is I almost wonder, did they find out, did he have a drug problem, or maybe he was just crazy? He genuinely was having conversations with the devil that lived inside of a dog next door. And
yeah,
right. And part of me also wonders, in some of these, they've made so many small short films about him, on television over the years. And in one of them, they portrayed him as the reason why he wanted to kill those couples was because he believed that the woman was supposed to be with him, and that if she would not have been like so afraid or so scared, maybe he wouldn't have killed her. Very, very odd. I think maybe he was just insane. That's what I think anyway.
Well, and there's also speculation that he focused on women because he lost his adopted mom, and then he did not like his stepmom, and then he found out his real mom pretty much abandoned him to be adopted. So he didn't like women in general.
Mommy issues.
They were mommy issues. They was untrustworthy. So, but then again, he claimed to have issues with the father aspect of it too, and he targeted one man, and that man had long hair, so they speculated that from the car it looked like a woman, and that's why he attacked him. So,
yeah. Well, you look at serial killers like John Wayne Gacy. He had mommy issues.
Seriously, lived right down the street from us.
Yeah, remember my dad was in the house when they were tearing up the floor.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my dad got to see the kitchen. There was no floor left except a little walkway to walk around the perimeter of the kitchen. And they had taken most of his creepy clowns out, but he said there was like 2 or 3 left on a shelf that were disturbing. His creepy clown collection.
Speaking of which, why was he allowed to sell his paintings and make a profit off of it, but Berkowitz couldn't sell his story?
Right. Illinois has weird laws that way.
It's actually changed now in Illinois due to John Wayne Gacy and him selling his paintings. They did a Victims Compensation Act. So if someone else does something as heinous as him, God forbid it doesn't happen, any profits from anything, if they are allowed to sell anything or whatever, will not go to the convicted killer. They will go directly to the victims' families.
Oh, good.
That was, but see, back then they had, John Wayne Gacy, we're talking the 70s, the late 70s.
And he was well respected. Like he was.
Oh my God, he met the 2 presidents of the United States.
He was a businessman that everybody respected and knew. And the last person that you would suspect was burying people in his mother's kitchen floor.
But that happens a lot with the serial killers, though. It's always the last person you expected turns out to be the serial killer.
I got to say, my dad and his partner's instincts were right about him. John Wayne Gacy used to drive around in a Lincoln Town car with a police light on the side. And he would pull over people, and that's how he got some of his victims. Well, he used to cruise up and down Harlem Avenue. Because, he lived right off of Harlem, in between Harlem and Cumberland.
Yeah.
Right. And on Harlem, part of it's Chicago. The other part of it is it's Norwich.
Right.
My dad pulled him over a couple of times. And warned him to get that damn light off of his car because the next time he saw him, he would arrest him for impersonating a police officer.
That's just so terrifying.
Yeah. My brother Johnny was offered a job by John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, thank goodness that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad wouldn't have let him do it either. If my dad found out who it was, because he was a respected businessman, but he gave police officers the creeps, a lot of them.
Right? That was the thing about it. And nobody could understand how he got away with a lot of stuff that, I mean, even when people like told on him and said, this man, they never followed through because they were like, are you kidding me? That's, John Gacy. We know him. He owns the construction company. He did this for the city. He did that and everybody just kind of, they always look away. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, the weird thing I find is that every single one of them lived in a really awesome big house, and they all have mommy issues.
If they had done one quick check on him when
Yeah.
he was arrested for indecent exposure or attempted kidnapping or something in Illinois. If they had done a background, they would have found out that he had served time in prison for sodomy against a child, against a teenager. Long before he moved to Chicago in another state, and he was a model prisoner, and he was supposed to spend like 20 years in prison, and they let him out in like 4. And they didn't.
Slip right through.
But how many times does that happen with serial killers, though? They have something in their past that they just stayed in jail. They would have had all these other victims.
Oh, yeah. It's true. I mean, it's now I can say the story that I'm telling tonight is actually kind of a tragic story. And this one, I honestly do believe that this person was possessed. There were, and it's actually one of the first major trials where the devil himself was actually on trial too. And I don't know if anyone, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of the young man Arnie Cheyenne Johnson?
I have. I mean, but you know me and my love of true crime, so.
Yeah. His life story is the basis for The Conjuring 3. The Warrens actually testified at his trial, but let me give you some background on him and his girlfriend at the time, then future wife, Diane Glatzel. Now, Debbie, I'm sorry, her brother, it was believed, her 11-year-old brother, David, was a host to a demon, okay? And there were like all these different ominous things happening with him, and his family was getting they were getting terrified. They weren't sleeping. They just had all these things, and they were afraid. They were afraid to sleep. They were afraid to be around him. They didn't know what was going to happen with this little 11-year-old boy who used to be this sweet, kind, loving child, And so they actually contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, just as it was their last hope to see if they could cure him or get him released or something, right? Well, they did bring in multiple priests, and they even petitioned the Catholic Church for a formal exorcism on him. But the process was, it was just going and going and going. And one day when they were doing all the prayers, he was being held down, the holy water, everything. Whatever was inside him just disappeared. It fled his body. Problem is one of the people who was holding him down was Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, and the demon flew into his body. Now, this was a mild-mannered young man, hard worker, just kind of a simple young man. And things started happening in the apartment, or I think it was an apartment, like type of house, that him and his girlfriend were sharing. Okay. And ominous things, just like what had happened with her younger brother, she was seeing things just not right with him. He wasn't sleeping. He was getting dark circles on all these different things, dark circles under his eyes, looking pale, getting violent towards her, like they're snapping, scaring her. And one day, several months after the exorcism had been performed on David, Arnie went and killed, he stabbed his landlord to death. He just, I mean, it was something that was just not expected at all. This happened actually on my dad's birthday in 1981, February 16th, 81. He had called in sick because he had been so sick through the last several months with being, invaded by this demon. And he went to the kennel where Debbie was working. And there were some other family members there. And their landlord was also Debbie's employer. And he just, I don't know. They went to lunch, and he started drinking heavily. And after lunch, when they returned to the kennel, they were all intoxicated. Everyone, the Bono, the victim, was kind of agitated, and everyone left the room away from everything to get away from Arnie and his temper, and Bono being drunk and everything. And Johnson went back to the apartment, and they fought, and he stabbed him to death. But the interesting thing is that he had no memory of it, so to speak. He didn't know what happened. He didn't know why he did what he did. And he never tried to say, oh, I'm innocent. He never tried, it was just, and when the lawyers got involved and then the Warrens were contacted, they were like, they testified that demon that was in David Glatzel went into Arnie's body. They both took the stand and testified for him. And there was a lot of community support, actually, because it wasn't like him. So in the trial, the lawyers said, look, he was possessed by the devil. Witness after witness recounted the change in his demeanor, the change in his mannerisms, the quick temper that was never there before, all these different things. And I think deep down, some of the police officers actually believed he was possessed too. I don't think any of them came out publicly, but it was, they tried to get him off on not guilty by virtue of possession, which is something unheard of. Virtual demonic possession, and the judge rejected this, but they argued over and over again that it could be, and they can't just take away a defense. Just because they may not believe in demonic possession doesn't mean that it doesn't happen and things. So it was allowed. The jury was allowed to consider demonic possession. And they actually deliberated for 15 hours over 3 days before they finally convicted him of first-degree manslaughter. But he got out after 5 years, and he and Debbie were married while he was in prison. He got his diploma from high school, and he was exorcised. I don't know if the Warrens are the one who did it, or if a priest or whatever, but whatever that was in him left him. And they lived a very happy life until his wife died last year from cancer. But I truly believe, this was the only killing that he did, and it was just so out of character for him. I truly believe that this is one case where the devil did make him do it, that he was possessed by something.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, has anyone seen The Conjuring 3?
I don't remember it. If I did see it, it was so long.
I have.
Well, the movie hasn't been out that, it's only been out a few years. But it's one of the one of the Ed and Lorraine Warren movies based on the possessions that they have, stopped and things, and the exorcisms they performed.
Yeah.
And it actually, at the end of the movie, it has pictures of him and Debbie, and I think it even has young David Glatzel pictures and stuff. And it tells you, I mean, it's really honestly like his life story on the screen, and how terrifying it was for the entire family, who never backed away from supporting him because they knew they knew that demon that was in their child went into him.
Yeah.
Scary.
I remember reading and studying about this story way before The Conjuring 3 came out, but I also watched The Conjuring 3.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I think there was another movie in the '80s. I think it was called the Demon Murder Case or something like that. That was that was kind of, I don't know. It was kind of, I don't know if it ever, made it onto the screen, but I know there was some kind of controversy with it where Lorraine Warren didn't like the way they were dramatizing or something. I don't know. There was some kind of big battle over it.
I immediately started thinking of the Damien movies. When you had mentioned The Conjuring, I had different movie series, but I remember in the '80s, if you said Damien, it just meant somebody was possessed.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, Damien, go away, right?
Yeah,
You do? You think he was possessed?
I 100% think he was possessed.
Yeah, if you actually study the story and all the details behind it, yeah.
Definitely. And he's never been in trouble ever again, never been violent again, none of the things that were showing in those few months leading up to this murder. Nothing.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
he went from being so soft-spoken and the type that you describe as never being able to hurt a fly to doing that grisly thing. And then it just, like I said, when you look into the details and everything behind that, it's easy to believe that he is a case truly of a demonic possession.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. What about Debbie? Listening to how things came about, how would you, as a psychic, as someone who has dealt with demonic or has felt those demon or evil things, what do you think about him and his story?
Oh, absolutely possessed. And we know that if Lorraine Warren and her husband got involved and they testified that this happened. And so there can be the higher ranking things, the demons and stuff that go in, but there's also influence from maybe energy or entity from a long time ago that's still hanging around that did these things. And historically, you know how bad things can be when people are being murdered and stuff and torture and all this crazy stuff. So there could be still people that are earthbound that come in, as well as, like something on the level of a demon. So, I mean, if they came in and even took their time because they were always busy doing cases to look at this, you know that they had something to go on. So, especially if he was okay and he was probably went through a lot of psychiatrists and stuff, and he seemed fine. And then from then on, he didn't have a problem. But when there's a change in people's personality and maybe depression coming in and all of that, we have to look around their environment. We always look mentally, are they, mentally okay? But we always look to say, what was the energy like? Was there something dark? Was there something haunted? Because that totally can make an impression on people. But something got into him, something took over him, especially having like that amnesia and not remembering what happened. You know, that tells you right there that something just got in. He didn't know. Probably either got tamped down or it exited his body. So I go yes for this since the Warrens were involved.
Yeah, and I have to say, there. I mean, this isn't a serial killer by any means, but we all know about the Amityville Horror. We all know about Ronald DeFeo Jr. killing his family, um, and things, and we also know about the defense saying that he, was possessed, and and a priest saying that there was definitely something there, and the Warrens actually they didn't testify in that, but the Warrens felt that he was possessed too by a demon. And I will say, I know that people say, "Well, the house isn't haunted. All these people lived there and never complained about anything." I saw a documentary recently from one of the Lutz children who emphatically said, yes, the movie dramatized and hyper, made everything hyper whatever. It wasn't like that. There wasn't blood or sludge or what are coming down the walls. Nothing like that. But there were definitely terrifying aspects that terrified those children. And there was definitely different things that caused the personality of their stepfather to change, George Lutz. And he did say that all of that compounded and destroyed their marriage. The whatever entity was in that house followed them when they left. It didn't stay in the house. That's why the house doesn't seem haunted. It followed them. It ruined their lives. And both George and Kathy Lutz both died young, in their 50s. And they ended up divorcing, although they remained close. But having something like that so traumatic, and then having people not believe them, and people, saying all these things about them, when I do think there was something in that house, and I think it followed them.
Kara,
Yeah.
when these things happen, I'm telling you, almost every time, whatever's in there is going to go with them. And I had a girlfriend, and her house was so haunted, and it was dark that I wouldn't go in her house. I never crossed the. We would sit out in lawn chairs on the porch because I wasn't going in that house. And she had like the cupboards would fly open, and the glassware would fly across the room and crash and break. They had fire after fire after flood after in an affluent neighborhood, rats. I mean, and then they moved from that house to another house. And guess what happened? The dog was terrified, didn't want to come in the house. The the glassware crashed. Fire, mice, not rats this time, floods, two floods, and I told her why. I'm not going to say publicly why, but I knew what was in there. I knew what was going on. And I said, as long as it's a situation's going like this, I'll be not effective at all going in and clearing your house because of the situation. And again, I can't say why, but it followed them. It followed them from one house to another, and it was an attachment on someone. And so when they did it, they took it with them. And so it can be really bad. This was really, really a dark thing and a strong thing to, it takes a lot for an entity to move something. And I've seen the most incredible things in my house, float across the room and stuff. But to have something open the cupboards and throw those glasses with lots of witnesses, and they zing across and they hit and they break, and the fires, nothing, stove not on at all, oven not on at all, and inside the stove burst out into flames. And I just go like all kinds of stuff. So yes, it's 100% believable that it goes along with them. That's why you do exorcisms and things like that. You make sure that it's not attached to the person, one of the people that are, leaving and going to another area. Because you can bless your house all you want, but if you bring in the demon, it's going to stay.
Well, Sandra, you spent many a nights at my house on Gunnison. You know things moved in my room.
In a creepy basement.
Do you remember I had that basement room? Remember, we would go upstairs and get something to eat, like in the middle of the night, and things would be totally moved around in my room.
You're like, well, how'd that happen? Because I run. I am terrified. I'm listening to you, Debbie, and I'm thinking, I that would be the moment that I'd probably break some kind of world record running. I don't run at all, and that terrified me. But yeah, like you're right. Your stuff used to get moved. You'd hear weird sounds. It was just, and then, well, you'd sit there and torture me and tell me ghost stories and
And make you watch more.
Oh, Cara, tell ghost stories? No, no way.
oh, creepy stuff. But I have a question, you guys, talking about the demonic possession. And as much as I do want to go there and I want to agree that probably happened to him, what about the other people who claim that and it turns out that there was just something wrong with them, like Ted Bundy? Ted Bundy tried to say that he was possessed by multiple demons.
Yeah.
And,
Ted Bundy was just,
he was
overly intelligent.
Yeah.
For one. And he played whatever card he could to try to get off with it. Where this other gentleman, that wasn't his persona. He was
like a normal person.
He was a normal person. He didn't have that narcissism or the high intelligence level to try to come up with any defense possible. Nor did his defense claim ever waver or change when it started to fail.
And he actually is not the one who came up with the defense. It was everybody saying there's something wrong, all these things, and it's not, I mean, they had an exorcism for this child, David, and the Catholic Church even, was brought. So they know there was something evil. Yeah. You're down.
I just struggle with the whole concept because it's such an easy thing to say.
Oh, I think there's plenty that lie about it. But out of every 1,000 that lie about it, you might find that one person who actually had something.
What's really strange is that sometimes when you have young people and they are supposed to be possessed or even a child, and they do things that, like, were they sitting watching horror movies? Probably, maybe not. Where did this all come? Where did these words come? And so you have to kind of look at stuff, but that's why they have to really have a medical professionals check these people out and see, how many personalities do you have in you, and this, that, and the other, and also how much television or movies they've watched. And but when you get these, especially young kids that they want to intervene with, you go, really, when the parents go, oh, they've never watched these shows or whatever, you start going, well, something's in them then. But I mean, we really have to, in everything, paranormal investigations, we have to go through the investigation. We have to start with, are you mentally okay or fit? The second time a voice talked to me, when after my near-death experience, first thing I went, stroke, everything good? Did you have a heart attack? Are you okay? Because those are the things that you look at if something comes in and you hear a voice. Well, luckily, no, I heard a voice. And so we have to explore all that stuff. And then you go see if something supernatural happened. Did they, did they make something fly, or did they have superhuman strength, or whatever it is? And really what it said. And when the Catholic Church gets involved, and I believe right now I read that they're doing more exorcisms than they ever have. It's important, it means that they put importance, because I know that they're picky over the cases they take. So I would think that all the medical stuff had been done before they come in and decide to do this.
Yeah. Now, I will say now we are at the point of the show where we need just a brief little synopsis to remind everybody about our fact or fiction with Sandra, so we can all vote on it. So if you just want to give like a little 30-second blurb about your fact or fiction, we will decide if we are.
Mr. Yovanovitch came from, well, he was born here in the United States, but his mother was from Russia. And they moved to a small town outside of the city of Chicago called Oak Park, Illinois. The man worked for, he was a custodian in the Chicago Tribune building throughout most of the 1950s. And people started disappearing here and there. He was also deformed. His mom kept him hidden away because he had some kind of weird growth on the side of his face. And he just didn't socialize with people. He didn't have social skills. He lived in his mother's basement. Even after she died, he continued to stay in that basement. Down the road, years later, with people still missing and nobody able to figure it out, the neighbors see him digging in his backyard one night. So they called the police, and the police started an investigation, and they found 16 bodies buried in his backyard. I believe one of them was a girl who worked in the Tribune building that he brought home with him. So it's an interesting story. He had mommy issues, serious ones. He lived in a big house, like most of our serial killers have done. And it's an interesting story to read about.
Dee Dee says fiction.
Anybody else?
Well, I know my guess, but I'm waiting.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it as, boy, that was a long story and more coming. So I go, sometimes you tend to not believe when there's more and more stuff coming out. And yet I go, it's so crazy. I would, I'm ready to say it's true because I go, but 16 bodies is a lot. It's a lot to weigh here.
John Wayne Gacy, how many did they find on his property? Right? It's creepy how many people you can bury in your own house and then still live there.
Right?
Yeah. Anybody else? What do you think, Sue?
Real quick, Dee Dee, you are correct. There is so much more in depth to what Son of Sam is. I didn't really want to make the whole show about Son of Sam, and I really could have spent a whole hour going into depth on Son of Sam. It is a very in-depth story.
Well, if she says fiction, I'll say fact.
I'm gonna go.
I gotta have something on the other spectrum.
I don't know if Cara knows she's muted.
Yeah, Cara? You there?
I'm sorry, I accidentally clicked it. I do believe that Dee Dee also had said fiction when she voted, and I'm going to say that I believe it's fiction because I think I would have, with my crazy, obsession with crimes, I think I probably would have heard about it. So, Brandi, it's your turn. What do you believe?
Well, you know me and my love of true crime, and I know a lot about serial killers, and that name does not ring a bell. At least not with that crime. So I'm going to say fiction.
I'm just going to say fact to be the only one that says fact.
Are you ready?
Yes.
That story is absolutely 100% baloney.
I was going to say, when you started saying that, I went, it's not.
I thought for
sure you were right.
It was da-da-da-da-da.
It was a good story, and I could pick out parts from serial killers. But the one that you said, it was like, no.
That was fun, though. Yeah.
Well, it was so long. I was like, wait a minute, we're getting more and more and more. That's why I was like,
you almost had me you almost had me believing it because of describing Oak Park. Because, yeah, you could kill someone in your house and your neighbor wouldn't know it. That's how spread out, everything in some of those bigger houses is. You could someone could be screaming in your basement for help, and the next door neighbor wouldn't hear it.
I used to love driving through Oak Park just to look at those houses. And, like, you could write creepy stories just with some of them driving on the street.
Okay,
Yeah.
so real quick, Dee Dee, only the first stories on our shows are fact or fiction. The rest are always based on fact. The first story is always the one that we either have made up or it is fact. So I'm sorry I confused you with my abbreviation of the Son of Sam. I just didn't want to spend an hour discussing Son of Sam. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, he is the type of case, especially with all the things with him, that we could spend an hour just talking about, his victims and all the trials and all the news media and everything. I mean, there's just so much that goes into that case, that, yeah, we would have taken up the whole time. Now, I will say, I'm going to remind everybody, yay, these are the 3 books that we have completed in our series. And I wrote the very last word for Debbie right when she turned, it turned her birthday. So this book is officially done on Debbie's birthday. Yay! Happy birthday! And it will be out
Happy
soon.
birthday!
It will be out soon. We're in the editing. Brandi is doing all the editing right now. So now we are, next week, we're starting on book 4, which is going to be fun because we are traveling to the groovy time of Woodstock.
I'd like to give Dee Dee a hell note, Cara.
Yes, exactly. Dee Dee, since you, if you want to message us, Debbie would like to send you a cute little hell note that are from China as a gift for guessing right for the
Money for the dead.
money for the dead is what it is.
Yeah.
And
And
like to send you-
just psychicfixes@gmail. You can just send me that with your address. And I don't keep anything like that, but I'll use it and I will mail it to you. It's kind of interesting. I was looking around. I don't have it right here because I cleaned up my office. So just get a hold of me, Dee Dee.
And thank you so much for playing along with us. We enjoy when we get our viewers to play along and take their guesses. And it was an awesome story. It really was. It'd make a great story. You need to write a novel about it. That'd be great.
His face from Oak Park.
That would be
is so beautiful. I want to say that on the cover art on these books, that it's just so beautiful.
Well, if you being from Chicago, I'm sure you've been to Navy Pier, you've been on the current Ferris wheel. If you look in the mirror in this one, that's our original Ferris wheel from 1893, the one that we tore down in 1907.
Let me tell you, these ladies are testing my daughter's creativity and my own on turning her artwork into the book covers. They're definitely testing our creativity with these.
That Ferris wheel held 2,600 people at once.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome covers. And the Egyptian one is in the second book. And for the first book, I didn't want an image in there because it was where she's stepping into the unknown by herself, going on this path of this first book. And so it's just so clever. And we can't wait to the 4th one. It's going to be really fun, but I'm not giving anything away.
No, but I will say my daughter, who's the artist, has already got it in works, so they will have a cover. And whenever she's got done with it, I will turn it into a book cover for them. So it's good to go. We just need the book.
Great.
I'm gonna be starting to write. I just, I need a few days to just enjoy this time with Debbie, that we accomplished yet another milestone in our book series before that next one is just which I think will
Yep.
go fast.
What I love so much is that our books are so meaningful on so many levels of helping people read and everything, anybody with disabilities, to being such historically correct in there with the stories, and it's just all inclusive. We are so proud of that. When I send books out, they go with the rainbow hearts. I send stickers. We're very, very proud of what we're creating here, and always having a focus on a strong woman in every book, as well as a lot of fun. So do pick it up. You can get it at Amazon or go to Barnes and Noble and order it there. Anywhere at your local bookstores should be able to order it.
Absolutely.
Well, top of the hour, you guys.
This was a wonderful show, guys. Thank you so much. And again, happy, 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 happy birthday to Debbie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, come on,
Happy
you
birthday, Debbie.
Okay,
And
we're going to. All right, Sandra wants to sing. We're going to have to.
We have
Happy birthday
oh
to
God, you all don't want me to sing because the dogs will howl.
Come on, let's do it. Happy birthday to you. Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday to you.
happy
Happy birthday,
dear.
dear Debbie. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
And
you.
like I said, I would
Thank
sing
you.
along, but let me tell you, all my dogs would have howled too, and you would never have heard the song because I
Well, that
cannot
would be
carry a
cute.
note to save my life. And
Well,
we're glad to have you
yeah.
back, Sandra. We have missed you.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yes. I'm glad to be back.
Oh, and in 2
Fun.
weeks, everyone, it looks like it may be Sandra and I on the same laptop coming to you live from Chicago. For our show.
Yay!
Oh, wow. And we have a guest next week, don't we?
Yes, yes. My
Yes.
father will be on next week to tell his story, so
Oh,
that will
exciting.
be fun.
Time to say goodbye, you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
All right, we'll see you next week.